Are you ready? Ready. Ba-ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Are you ready? There's a great album by Bob Dylan called Saved. I know he's sold out. I don't want to hear it, okay? I love Bob Dylan. Don't we love some of these people that sold out? I don't love that he sold out, but I love some of them albums he put out. Saved, Shot of Love, and Slow Train Comin' were all albums that Bob Dylan came out with after he became born again. Once saved, always saved. Calvinism. I don't know. That's not what I'm teaching. So, welcome to my show. My name is Deanna, and I'm streaming out of Humboldt County about Humboldt County to Humboldt County and anyone else who cares. And we're going through this book here, 5,000 Year Leap Principles. Today's is going to be on the separation of powers, but we are going to do the quiz first as usual. Good to see you, Ostawa Jen. If you build it, they will come. If you read it, they will learn. Amen. Remember in the beginning when I first started streaming, you guys, I was thinking about this. I would be so embarrassed to go back and read watch a lot of my old streams. Not super embarrassed, but like I remember I started off, I was reading a book, Heinz Feet and Heinz Places, the children's version. And just because I didn't really know what to do, and I wanted to bring some positivity and some culture and some Christianity to the world, the good stuff, A lot of people say they love Jesus and then they go out and do things that does not look very loving. So we need to be sharing good things. There are a lot of good things happening all around. So thank you for being here. I appreciate you all for being here. There's so many rabbit holes you could be down, but we're going down the rabbit hole of knowledge. We're trying to learn the foundation. I got to see a clip of this guy yesterday. It was so cute. He was so full of life. Dr. Skousen. What a cute little man. I wish I could have shared it with you, but he was explaining about the pen, and we will discuss that in the quiz right now. So let me get that open. I had to start a second page on the website for the Constitution study because GoDaddy was like, nope, you're full on this page. I was like, what? I'm full on this page. Hey, Kiss Off. I saw your message last night. I said goodbye because you were leaving. I just love you. You're so fun. That was fun being on Bonnie's show last night. For some reason, it's easier for me to speak freely. I just feel a little more comfortable on somebody else's show. Go figure. I don't know why. Don't ask me why. It is just that way. So let me get the page shared for you guys. We'll get right into it. I'm not going to sing that Flying by the Seat of My Pants song ever again because, like, you don't need to know if I'm flying by the seat of my pants, right? It's none of your business. Oh, right on. Was listening while making lunch. Sweet. So here's the quiz we're doing, and it is on the principle that we learned last Friday, which is free market economics. And that tends to be one of the most boring ones I've noticed that people just don't like to listen to or follow along. I remember last time it being that way too, but I like it. I like learning about free market economics. So here we go. Number one. Let me make this a little bit bigger. It seems real small. The founders searched for a system of economics built on natural law concepts was answered in 1776 by the publication of The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith. He said, wealth is not gold and silver. 3, a nation is wealthy if its citizens have things that make life comfortable. 4, the formula for making things abundant and cheap contain 6 elements. It said name 3. I have here, looks like I have 5 of them. Specialized production, like shoes, wagons, homes. 2, buying and selling in the free market. 3, supply and demand. 4, profits to make an exchange worthwhile and competition. Oh, and the last one, it was well, this is part of competition. Quality, quantity, keeping prices low. And then that's when I got to see Dr. Skousen do his little video on the pen and how when the pen first came out, of course, I think he was giving an example of himself even, but I'm not quite sure. I should have rewound that. But he was talking about a pen costing $12.95 when it first came out. It's one of the greatest examples of recognizing how competition works and supply and demand works. And then all we have to do is think about our energy today. Do we have much energy competition for electricity, for fuel, for things that we need in our home and to get around? No, we don't have much competition for that. Those are a monopoly right now. And so, whereas you can get a pen for free just about anywhere you go these days, when they first came out, they costed $12.95, you guys. It's crazy. 5, this book can be summarized in 4 laws of economic freedom. Name them. 1, it is the freedom to try. 2 is the freedom to buy, freedom to sell, and the freedom to fail. 6, the most destructive force to a free market economy is government. 7, the founders agreed government should be involved in 4 things. Name them. Well, it says name 3, but I have more than 3 as usual. Let's see. Why are my notes so messy? Illegal force. When people are doing illegal force, the government should be involved to protect its citizens from such a thing. 2, fraud. 3, monopolies. 4, debauchery. Vices. Protecting people from vices, not encouraging it. You hear that, Kimber Gal? In your Hatch car program, your needles all over the place. There's our issue to relate for today. Drugs and alcohol and other vices. You do that in the private. Don't be doing that in the public. We have liberty, but not liberty to bleed all over people with our problems, with our addictions, with our vices, with our lewdness around children. 8, Adam Smith's formula ceased to be taught beginning around, I've got 1913 here. But it was the turn of the century. Instead, the world became fascinated with the philosophy of Karl Marx. Give me that, give me that, give me that, give me that, give me that. 9, the process of a bank issuing many times more paper notes than it has in assets is called fractional banking system. Fractional banking system. I'm sorry, fractional reserve banking. Fractional banking, okay. 10, describe the banker's reaction to Lincoln's program of raising money without debt. What Lincoln did with his greenbacks was the bankers were not pleased with that. Where's my answer? The banks were offering 28% interest. Lincoln offered greenbacks. See, small reaction of assets only. Let me find this answer because I'm not happy with my answer. And guess what? I have the answers. How I forgot that, I don't know, because I knew I had them and then I forgot I had them. And well, I went to look for them one day and I didn't realize they were all joined up together. And let's see, what is this answer? Number 10. Let's see if I can find it. Number 10. Oh yeah, we're way past this here. We're way past this here. Let's see. And the things, oh yeah. Let's see. Fractional reserve banking. They feared it and editorialized against it. Yeah. My first reaction was, they killed him. That was what I was going to say, but they feared it and editorialized against it. They probably did a massive campaign, right? The highest level of prosperity occurs when there is a free market economy and a minimum of government regulations. That is the 15th principle. And now we're going to go on and read the 16th principle. Thank you all for being here. Oh, look who snuck in. Bonnie and Garrett. Nice to see you guys. Wonderful. Good to see you. I am thinking about coming back and doing another stream later. I know I say that all the time, but I am really seriously thinking about it because it's super cruddy out. It's raining and it's just nasty out there. And we have some pictures and videos to share from that one-armed beast in Wisconsin with her garden. And I've got some pictures of my garden, and maybe do a little stream about gardening. And we could talk about politics a little bit too. We could spice it up a little, share some videos, share some thoughts. I don't do open panel streams very much anymore, but I do enjoy them more on other people's channels than my own. So it's a little more stressful for some reason. But back to this study here. The 16th principle, the government should be separated into 3 branches: legislative, executive, and judicial. You ever see the 3-headed eagle? A popular pastime among political writers in ancient times was attempting to decide what form of government was best. Some argued for a monarchy with a single powerful ruler. Others preferred an aristocracy where the best families of the nation, were allowed to rule, like Joe Biden's family. Yet a third favored a pure democracy where decisions were made to be made by the whole people. Unfortunately, none of these systems furnished the security and justice which were expected of them. Then came Polybius. Polybius was a Greek who lived 204 to 122 BC. Next to Herodotus and Polybius is recognized as the greatest of all Greek historians. When Greece was conquered by Rome, Polybius was deported to the Roman capital. Previously, Polybius has rendered illustrious public service to the Acacian League, a confederation of city-states. Oh, I lost my place. Where'd you go? However, he quickly recognized the advantage of the Roman Republic, which had been set up to govern millions. Polybius became a friend and ally of Rome, traveling widely on military and diplomatic missions to Europe, Asia, and Africa. His rich, practical, and scholarly experience finally culminated in his writing 40 books of history. The political insights of Polybius. I need to turn this heater off. Get myself out here. Woo! Polybius felt there was an element of genius in each of the 3 types of government being discussed by philosophers. A monarchy had the executive strength needed to direct the war. An aristocracy, on the other hand, represented vested interests of wealth and the developed resources of the nation. A democracy, meanwhile, represented the interests of the masses of the population, without which neither a monarchy nor an aristocracy would exist. Unfortunately, none of these systems, when allowed to govern, provided equality, prosperity, justice, or domestic tranquility for the whole society. Polybius felt he understood why this was so. Even more keenly than Aristotle, Polybius, was aware that each form carried itself within the seed of its own degeneration, if it were allowed to operate without checks and balances provided by opposing principles. Monarchy could easily become tyranny, aristocracy sink into oligarchy, oppressive government by a few rich families, and democracy turn into mob rule of force and violence. Polybius proposed a mixed constitution. Isn't this great getting to learn about all the people that our founders studied? It's like doing a study on all that they studied. But since all three systems represented unique and essential elements for the governing of a people, why not combine them into a single system? Polybius saw the synthesizing process of all three ingredients beginning to develop in the Roman system, but shortly after Polybius died, the Romans abandoned their principles of a republic and eventually set up an emperor. Thus came an end to what Polybius had hoped would be the first three-department constitution in history. He visualized the strength of a monarchy being assigned the executive duties of government, the interests of wealth, and the established order would be represented in the Senate. The interests of the general populace would be represented in the popular assembly. Polybius felt that if these three departments were set up as coordinated equals, they could perform their necessary functions, but at the same time counterbalance one another as a restraining mechanism so that no one of them would acquire sufficient power to abuse the people. This new approach to government was called a mixed constitution. It was a great idea, but it virtually died with Polybius. Not until the middle 1700s did the genius of Baron Charles de Montesquieu undertake to resurrect the inspired potentialities of a mixed constitution and submit it for the consideration of modern man. Baron Charles de Montesquieu. Montesquieu became one of the best educated scholars in France. Although his mother died when he was 7 and his father died when he was 24, a wealthy uncle left him a title, a judicial office, and his whole fortune. Montesquieu traveled extensively throughout England and continental Europe. Then he spent approximately 20 years of research before he wrote his philosophical history called The Spirit of Laws. This has been described as one of the most important books ever written and certainly ranks as the greatest book of the French 18th century. The final writing required 2 solid years of uninterrupted labor and was completed in his huge study hall, 60 by 40 feet, at his palatial residence in France. However, the book was so full of praise for the English system that it was never popular in France and was scarcely read. Nevertheless, it became famous elsewhere and was greatly admired by the founders. It documented the practical possibility of a government based on separation of powers or a mixed constitution. In Book 11, Montesquieu actually set forth the ingredients for a model constitution. The founders admired it sufficiently to use many portions of it as a guide in their own work. However, the founders' joint effort in constitution writing greatly excelled even that of Montesquieu. Nevertheless, to him must go the well-deserved credit for illuminating the minds of the founders with the exciting possibilities of a government based on separated but coordinated powers. The foundation for what became America's three-headed eagle. Montesquieu saw the separation of powers developing under the English system somewhat differently than Polybius had seen it in Rome. Instead of the three departments of government being the executive, the Senate, and the People's Assembly, Montesquieu saw the powers of government developing along the lines of an executive, a legislative of both an upper and lower house, and an independent judiciary. In England, the developing process was still in process, but Montesquieu felt it was moving in the right direction. The Parliament was gradually exercising increasing independence, which Montesquieu pronounced essential to liberty. However, he recognized that a legislator could be tyrannical if the executive did not restrain some of its power to check it. Said he, when the legislative and executive powers are united in the same person or in the same body of magistrates, there can be no liberty, because apprehensions may arise lest the same monarch or Senate legislator should enact tyrannical laws to execute them in a tyrannical manner. And that's from The Spirit of Laws. Montesquieu saw the legislature enacting the laws and the executive administering them, but he felt it was just as important to have an independent judiciary to interpret and enforce the laws. Again, there is no liberty if the judiciary power be not separated from the legislative and executive. Were it joined with the legislative, the life and liberty of the subject would be exposed to arbitrary control, for the judge would then be the legislature. Were it joined to the executive power, the judge might behave with violence and oppression. A single executive. Montesquieu recognized the weakness of the Roman system in setting up 2 or more consuls to preside over the people. On one occasion, there were 30 executives in Greece. Montesquieu said this responsibility should be concentrated in a single person who can make decisions quickly and decisively and cannot escape either credit or blame for the consequences. It is interesting that in the American Constitutional Convention, there was a heated debate over the number of presidents. The New Jersey plan called for several. Governor Randolph of Virginia wanted at least 3. James Wilson argued that along the lines of Montesquieu, there should be only 1. Development of separation of powers in America. It may come as a surprise to modern Americans to learn how slowly the doctrine of separation of powers was accepted in America. The states were perfectly willing to set up a single executive, a separate legislature, usually with an upper and lower house, and also an independent judiciary. They were certainly not agreeable to setting up a 3-department government on the federal level. It will be recalled that when the Articles of Confederation were written, neither an executive nor judiciary was provided for. Provision was made for a Congress of Representatives from the various states, but even the Congress had no taxing power or enforcement power. It was simply a committee of the states. John Adams pushes separation of powers doctrine. In 1776, when it first became apparent that the American people would have to set up their own government, John Adams practically stood alone in advocating a government built on a separation of powers. Even before the Declaration of Independence, he was advocating a new national government with 3 separate departments, but found himself severely criticized for such a revolutionary idea. Many years later, John Adams wrote a letter to one of the other founders, Dr. Benjamin Rush, dated April 12, 1809, in which he described his initial effort to get this principle adopted. I call you to witness that I was the first member of Congress who ventured to come out in public, as I did in January 1776, in my thoughts on government, in favor of a government with 3 branches and an independent judiciary. This pamphlet, was very unpopular. No man appeared in public to support it but yourself. You attempted in the public papers to give it some countenance, but without much success. Franklin leaned against it. Dr. Young, Mr. Timothy Matlack, and Mr. James Cannon, and I suppose Mr. George Byron, were alarmed and displeased at it. Mr. Thomas Paine was so highly offended with it that he came to visit me at my chambers at Mrs. Yard's to remonstrate and even scold at me for it, which he did in very ungenteel terms. In return, I only laughed heartily at him. Paine's wrath was excited because my plan of government was essentially different from the silly projects that he had published in his Common Sense. Oh, he said that. By this means, I became suspected and unpopular with the leading demagogues and the whole constitutional party in Pennsylvania. John Adams studied the divine science of good government. It is interesting that John Adams should have been the first among the founding fathers to capture the vision of Montesquieu in setting up a self-repairing national government under the separation of powers doctrine. As we pointed out earlier, he looked upon politics as a divine science and determined to devote his life to its study. It will be recalled that during the Revolutionary War, he wrote to his wife, "The science of government is my duty to study more than all other sciences. The arts of legislation and administration and negotiation ought to take the place of, indeed, to exclude in a manner all other arts. I must study politics and war, that my sons may have liberty to study mathematics and philosophy. My sons ought to study mathematics and philosophy, geography and natural history, and naval architecture, navigation, commerce, and agriculture, in order to give their children a right to study painting, poetry, music, architecture, statuary, tapestry, and porcelain." Basic principles of sound constitutionalism, unpopular at first. As indicated earlier, he had discovered that the selling of the principles of his design science was not designed for the career of a man who wanted to become a popular politician. Here's the way he described his experiences. Upon my return from France in 1779, I found myself elected by my native town of Braintree, a member of the convention for forming a constitution for the state of Massachusetts. I attended that convention of near 400 members. Here I found such a chaos of absurd sentiments concerning government that I was obliged daily before that propose plans and advocate doctrines which were extremely unpopular with the greater number. Lieutenant Governor Cushing was avowedly for a single assembly, like Pennsylvania. Samuel Adams was of the same mind. Mr. Hancock kept aloof in order to be a governor. In short, I had at first no support but from the Essex junto, which had adopted my ideas in the letter to Mr. Wythe. They made me, however, draw up the Constitution, and it was finally adopted with some amendments very much for the worse. John Adams writes separation of powers into a state constitution. It is interesting that in spite of all the opposition John Adams encountered, he did succeed almost single-handedly in getting his state to adopt a constitution based on separation of powers. For the first time in the world, a constitution read, "In the government of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the legislative, executive, and judicial powers shall be placed in separate departments, to the end that it might be a government of laws and not of men." The modern apostle of the divine science of good government, unappreciated for a century. We're almost done here, guys. In later years, Adams was successful in getting his ideas incorporated in the U.S. Constitution, but he was never able to gain a genuine acceptance of himself. Even though he was elected the first vice president of the United States and the second president, he very shortly disappeared into history with scarcely a ripple. 100 years after the founding of the country, neither Washington nor Massachusetts had erected any kind of monument to John Adams. It was only as scholars began digging into the origins of American constitutionalism that John Adams suddenly loomed up into proper perspective. Even he suspected there would be very few who would remember what he had attempted to accomplish. He wrote to a friend, "Mausoleums, statues, monuments will never be erected to me. Panegyrical romances will never be written, nor flattering orations spoken to transmit me to posterity in brilliant colors." I could say the same about me. A constitution for 300 million freemen. Nevertheless, his political precepts of the divine science of government caught on. Even Pennsylvania revised its constitution to include the separation of powers principle, and Benjamin Franklin, one of the last to be converted, finally acknowledged that the Constitution of the United States, with its separation of powers, was as perfect as man could be expected to produce. He urged all of the members of the convention to sign it so that it would have unanimous support. John Adams said it was his aspiration to see rising in America an empire of liberty and the prospect of 200 or 300 millions of freemen without one noble or one king among them. In case you didn't realize, I did have to add a second page to the Constitution study. All the old past studies that I've done are still up here on the Constitution tab. So this goes all the way back to the first one. If you've missed any of them, you can catch them all. All the writings of the book are here. This is educational material to be copied. And so the first two are introductions. And I mean, these are awesome readings. This is the stuff no one teaches us. But God did with Moses. That was where we had our first government setup, goes all the way back to the Old Testament. And then the Anglo-Saxons were the only other people. That's why the book is called The 5,000-Year Leap. There aren't any other governments like the one we got. And the reason why things look so bad right now is because what they did to give us this government was to study their butts off, first of all. Look around the world, look at governments, look at history, look at the consequences of the governments. And they set up this ruler's law with tyranny on one side and anarchy on the other side. And they put us right here in the middle under people's law. We're the legislature, we're the assembly. And we are not doing our job very well. We are not doing our job very well. However, we are taking it back slowly. Michigan was the first state to assemble, then Alaska. Missouri and California are interim, and there are plenty others that are assembling as well. There's a little page. I want to share with you a website that I just got a hold of yesterday from listening to a podcast. You know, a lot of times the podcast, the gold is like in the middle. It's not a link that's given. It's not always the most popular thing, but I was just listening to this podcast and they brought this page up, statewidecommonlawgrandjury.com. When people tell you that there's nothing happening, it's just getting worse and worse, there's nothing we can do, those people do not research. Those people are caught in a rut of just feeling like there's nothing we can do. That's an easy one. That's one of the circles they want, they being the enemy of freedom, whoever they are. They want us all doing busybody work, spinning our wheels, doing things that don't matter. Don't get trapped. Do the work that matters. There's not a lot, not everybody can do something, but you can all pray. We have the satanic people running things in this country. And you have some people that either just ignore it or they don't care to pray about it. The Bohemian Grove is what I'm speaking of. That's coming up. They do their little rituals around the solstice. They do their little things, and we don't really talk about it. I mean, I'm deep in Christianity. I love my church, but we are going to pick up our own little study here too, because I want to talk about these other religions. So people can make an educated guess, a decision, not guess. People can decide where you want to be, because there's no middle line anymore. There never really has been. We can talk about all of these things. Spiritualism. People love to sit on spiritualism as if that's not, as if that's a religion, and it is. We have astrology and the horoscopes, anthropology, Ekanar. Some of these aren't very good to blow up, I can see. But the Kabbalah Center, we hear about the Kabbalah a lot. The Church of Satan. The Kabbalah Center is a little more secretive. This is the stuff that the Bohemian Grove people are involved with. And then you have Wicca. It's all here. So I want to touch on some of these things. I also do want to stream that non-compliant video again. So I have a lot of things rolling around in my head. Gardening, religion, Chris Ann Hall, a lot of things. But one thing that's really on my heart is we've got to be godly. We've got to be godly. We have got to understand, us as little gods, ignoring God is why we're at where we're at. We're godless society. And the things that we are putting up with and allowing to happen in our own community are a disgrace. They are a disgrace. We are to stand up, speak up, and show up. We are not just to sit around in our homes reading the Bibles every day after day after day. I read the Bible. I go to church. I do my duty with trying to, be tapped into the creator of the universe, as I've asked for the truth. Have you asked for the truth? There's a video about the scribes and all that they had to do. I want to share too. There's so much I want to share. I could probably run a super long stream today, just play video after video after video. I wouldn't even have to sit here. But one more thing I want to share with you, a really cool video that just dropped. And I don't see it. Fauci is being grilled on the Senate floor. Did you know that? Where is it? It didn't show. Huh. Fauci's being grilled on the Senate floor. Hi, Echo. Good morning. It starts at home. Amen. You have to change county to county, state to state to form a country. Amen. ABCs. You're right. It's not getting worse. There's changes, but people just won't open their eyes to change. It's true. I get so tired of that. Thank you, sweetie, for dropping that. I get so tired of hearing that. I'm glad that Bonnie are on. Which, oh yes, I would turn on closed captioning. I usually do turn on closed captioning, and I have had closed captioning on before, but sometimes they mess with stuff, and maybe I didn't have that on. I do want to encourage all you streamers also to put your closed captioning on. I definitely appreciate that myself. I will definitely do that. Thank you for I love that you asked me to do that. Thank you so much. Bonnie, I love when you're on the calls and asking questions. Jen, got some ladies in here that do the work. We had a fun show last night on Bonnie's. That was fun. And then I got off and I did this study for just now. So, oh yeah, one more thing. Jen was surprised to see, and I was too. Oh, they're using lasers to cut down trees, blue lasers. And now I can't see it in my stream here, Jen. It's like gone. It's not here. I'm looking on my own stream. Oh, there it is. There it is. Guys, they're using blue lasers to cut down trees. You don't believe in DEWs, direct energy weapons? Well, here you go. It's right here. You go tell that to the people of Paradise, Santa Rosa, Lahaina, wherever else they're using this stuff. Got people painting their roofs blue all over the place. I've thought about it. I mean, I'm just not fighting against destiny. None of us really know. It's kind of scary because we really don't know, where the next township may get attacked or where the next stronghold is. This, I can tell you this. It's another stream in my head. I got too many. It's time to definitely do another stream. And now I lost it. Totally lost it out the door. No, it's coming back. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it came back. The California thing. Don't California my neighborhood. Now, I've had good conversations with Bonnie, and what some of the California behavior is this. Rich elitists go to Texas, buy land in the desert, and then hog up and tie up all the water in their neighborhood. That's a California thing. You don't think the Lakers... I think the Lakers are used to get the power poles too. So the California thing, but this is what I want to say. Yes, there are California politics, and then there's also politics that happen here in California that are going to happen in your neighborhood too, for sure. Because what it is this Agenda 21 and the globalist order where they want to control us all. And that is what's happening in lots of different countries. We've seen it. If you've been paying attention to the entire world, Brazil stood up, Argentina. You've got some world leaders that are pretty amazing in going against the cabal and going against these control freaks. But the thing is, your township will be just like California if you don't have oversight. If you don't have people that are watching and involved in and governing. We have to self-govern. The first questions the founders asked themselves when they sat down to give us this government was, are we good enough to govern ourselves? And when I first read that, I thought, well, how ludicrous. Of course we are. Of course we are. And then as time has gone on and I've read more and more and I look around our country, like, well, maybe we're not good enough to govern ourselves. Maybe we're not good enough to govern ourselves. We're godless. We allow things to happen in our schools and in our government that should not be. And until the godly people start to rise up and call out the predators that have set themselves right in our schools, and they're in our face, they're coming for your children. They've already told you they're coming for your children. Until that happens, I'm not thinking that we really are deserving of being self-governing. Until people rise up and stand up for the kids and stand up for righteousness, it's not looking good to me. I don't think it. Oh, good. You've got good news, huh? Ooh, I like that good news. Took down another sanctuary. That makes 2 in Pennsylvania. Awesome. See, we talk about good news and remedy. And, you know, it's not just fear porn. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of rabbit holes you could go down. There's a lot of people that want your energy. They want your money. I'm really liking the National Assembly. Oh, man, I don't want to say it wrong. Sometimes I say the wrong thing. National Assembly. The records are there. The receipts are there. I'll show it to you one more time. And also, I'm liking the his hardline has been putting out some good videos, some good short clips and videos, commercial type videos. You know, marketing stuff just makes me cringe. But at the same time, it's also like it has to be. It has to be. Because this is where we're at as Americans. I mean, we need to have a catchy commercial. You know, Star's working on that too for her WOW organization. Please be praying for Star and that organization as she is working very diligently on it to help survivors of human trafficking. And we'll be able to start sharing a little bit more and more about that soon. But for now, it's just all very... we're still in infantile stages, but here you go, back down to 2011 when Michigan first assembled. Missouri just gave notice, and so did California, interim. These seats have been vacant, and they are returning. Do not let anybody tell you that nothing is happening. That is a lie. That is not true. That is meant to just keep you sleeping. To keep you sleeping. Penna is rocking it. Yes. Yes. And leave you with a couple of the quick clips that I saw this morning from the National Assembly. Just real short ones, but I would like to leave you with something. Let's see. It's 2 quick ones. 30 seconds. One's 30 seconds, one is a minute. And then I'm out of here. I follow him. He's on my friends list. Answers me all the time. Right on. Oh, cool. See, we've got people in here that know what's going on. Yes, they do. They definitely know what's going on. Kiss Off's one of them. You better be careful with her around. She'll tell you like it is, man. She don't mince words at all. She's serious as a heart attack. I love Kiss Off. She is... no bueno. No messing around. Don't mess with her, man.
They aimed to silence the voice of Donald Trump, the people's representative. No one should be above or below the law.
No one is above the law.
Injustice prevails when power dictates. Our justice system shields the elite and punishes the innocent. They serve their interest, not justice. It's time to reclaim our power. Join us at www.national-assembly.net to restore true justice and regain control.
Get there. Be there or be square. One last one. He just dropped this morning. I thought this one was pretty cool.
We are transferring power from Washington, D.C., and giving it back to you, the people.
It is
Don't wait for him.
under General
He can
Order
fix
100,
all this.
under the Lieber Code, which is
Turn out loud.
martial law, that until the people return to the vacant offices, military is to run the country.
Of course, we're dealing with a long trend of abuses. It is our right, it is our duty to take care of this head on.
We have an unjust, corrupt, two-tier justice system that favors the elites. Our own government, the corporation, is committing democide on we the people. You can't take back power if you don't know how. Learn the proper and lawful remedy on how to reseat these offices that have sat vacant since 1861 by reassembling your states at national-assembly.net. That's national-assembly.net. Remember, it's our duty.
It is our duty. Isn't it our duty? I think so too. I do feel that compellingness. You're welcome, Echo. My pleasure. Doug is a doctor of history, PhD, and has 4 master's degrees: strategy, strategic intelligence, military operations, and air power. He earned a BA. What? Really? Let me see if I can pull that up. I have to open it up in YouTube. To get it here. Let's see. Let's check out Doug. Let's check out Doug. See why y'all got a blue wrench in here? Let's check him out. Then I should get off here because I don't like to make these too long. But I do obviously need to come back and do a talking stream. Doug Mastriano. So he's a district legislator? Would that be proper to call him? He's in the Pennsylvania State Senate. And he answers you and your question. Isn't that nice? You can talk to somebody and they answer you back. I doubt that Pelosi would ever do that, or Newsom. Regular people, guys. These are regular people. He is a legislator. He is a retired military colonel and combat veteran. Whoa. Wow. Thank you, mister. I love men like this. I just love men like this. All about it. They're all about it. Combat veteran and the son of a career U.S. Navy man. He retired from U.S. Army in November 2018 after 30 years active duty as a colonel. Doug is an Eagle Scout and worked as a paperboy, janitor, security guard, short order cook, pizza delivery person, and a dishwasher. Oh, he's like a real person. He's like a real guy. But man, what a record he has. He was commissioned in the U.S. Army in 1986 and served on the Iron Curtain with the 2nd Armored Cavalry Regiment in West Germany. While serving along the East German Czechoslovakian borders, he witnessed the end of the Cold War and thereafter deployed to Iraq for Operation Desert Storm to liberate Kuwait. His regiment led the attack against Saddam's elite Republican Guard forces. Doug went on to serve in Washington, D.C., the 3rd Infantry Division, and U.S. Army Europe. After 9/11, Mastriano was the lead planner for the operation to invade Iraq via Turkey. He served 4 years with NATO and deployed 3 times to Afghanistan. Mastriano was the director of NATO's Joint Intelligence Center in Afghanistan, leading 80 people from 18 nations. On his own initiative, Doug led 7 relief operations to help Afghan orphans. Wow. Wow. He completed his career as a professor of the U.S. Army War College, Carlisle, PA, and taught strategic studies at the master degree level to the next generation of senior leaders. Doug is a doctor of history and has 4 master's degrees. Wow. See, he's the new movie star for me. This is where we need to make a shift, America. Quit watching Hollywood and mainstream and all the Netflix and they're predictive programming you. They are predictive programming you. I don't care what series you're watching. I don't care. These people deserve our attention. These people deserve us to know about them. You know how much information is uploaded on YouTube every day? I know some of you guys know because I've told you. Learned it from my pastor. Anybody remember? 80 years worth of YouTube information is uploaded every single day. Please be careful with who and what you give your energy to. Ask yourself, is this serving me? Am I able to do anything with this information for my country? I mean, you don't got to be about it every minute of the day. Some of us are just nutty that way. But, you know, there are people like this man. I never even heard of him. I would like to highlight people like this. That's what I stream about, is stand-up people. This is a stand-up dude, right? Amazing. Thank you for sharing that with me, Kisoff. You're very fortunate to have him. He sounds amazing. And God-fearing. Yeah. Met with T many times, and the Dems hate him. Well, yeah, that's when you know. That's the thing. It's like with Trump, you know, I feel like 3 years ago, you know, really, we didn't know. Trump come out with the Trump scene. He called it, when he talked with Candace Owens, he said, yeah, they should have called it the Trump scene, the vaccine, warp speed. There are some things I do not love about Trump. And the main thing is I learned is that I'm not supposed to be looking to him to rely on him. I got work to do myself. So there's a problem with some people that are just waiting and looking. Well, when Trump gets in, it's going to be all better. No, it's not. Not in your neighborhood. Unless you're involved, it's not going to be better. Unless you start learning how to self-govern and you look at people in your community who can do that and help them, nurture them, prop them up, assemble your county. Then, you know, Trump can't fix everything. Hi, Rocksteady. Good to see you. Another God-fearing person here. I'm about to get off of here because I've rambled on quite a bit too long. But I do want to come back later. It's super rainy and cold and yucky. And I can't be doing this on my educational streams, like ranting and talking. I try to separate this out so that these classes are really a little bit more sterile, you know, and not so much my opinion. But that just can't be helped. It's great to see you. I pray for you all. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. The Lord lift up his countenance on you. I pray you are protected, that no weapon formed against you would stand, that we can assemble in our counties. Lord, that you would protect us from these evil people that wish us harm. God, please be merciful to us. Help us be your hands and feet. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Love to see you all here. You guys make me so happy today. Thank you so much. I will see you on the next one.